What's up again, everybody? I'm Clayton. Welcome back to Ages of Film. We got a special Saturday content for you guys today. This is a collab I'm doing with a few YouTube buddies of mine. Some of them you guys know very well. We have Bryan Lomax, Jack Petrie, and Jason from Backtrack Cinema. All of us guys are doing this video together. We're dropping all of ours on the same day. So yeah, go check out their videos as well. I believe Jack is going first, then me, then Bryan, then Jason, I think is the order. I could be wrong, but we're all dropping our videos today. So check mine out. Check theirs out. Go give them all a like and a sub. They are all better YouTubers than I am. So if you like my content, I know you'll love theirs. Go give them some love. But what we're doing is this is actually the first of a 3-part series. We're going to be doing top 10 favorite directors, top 10 favorite actors, and top 10 favorite actresses. So this is our top 10 directors list. And keep in mind, I was very particular with my words there. This is our top 10 favorite directors list. So this is not the best directors of all time. This is a list of our personal favorites. All right. So if you see our lists and you think, hey, you left off this guy, or how could you not have this guy on your list? He's directed multiple Oscar award-winning films or whatever. We're not doing best, we're doing favorites. All right, so get into this video. Let me know y'all's thoughts in the comment section. What's y'all's list look like? Who is your favorite director of all time? Let me know in the comment section. Before I get into my list here, I do want to just give a few honorable mentions. A few guys that will not appear on this list, unfortunately, because we only had 10 slots to fill and they just didn't quite make the cut. But I love these directors so much. I couldn't leave them out of this video entirely. I had to at least mention them as honorable mentions because I love these directors. So a few honorable mentions here. We have Ron Howard, who I love. Yeah, Ron Howard has done a number of films that I just thoroughly enjoy. I love so much of his work. Matt Reeves, who I wanted him to be on this list, man, but I just don't think, and I couldn't in good faith put a guy on a list here who's only done about 6 feature films on a list with some guys that you'll see who have done a couple dozen films in their career. So the lack of, a large number of films is what keeps Matt Reeves off this list for me. But if you guys know me, if you know, Matt Reeves has directed my favorite film of all time. He's done a number of other films in the Ape franchise that I love. So I had to at least mention him as an honorable mention. Didn't quite make the list, but yeah, he had so much love for Matt Reeves. Damien Chazelle, kind of, another guy like Matt Reeves who he doesn't quite have the full body of work yet to make my top 10. If he puts out a couple more bangers, he could certainly slide in there. I do love so much of the work that Damien Chazelle has done. He's made one of my favorite films of all time in Whiplash. He's done a number of other movies that I thoroughly enjoy, so he does deserve an honorable mention. Sidney Lumet, another guy, probably the oldest on this list as far as like date wise. Well, maybe. Sidney Lumet, if you're not super familiar with Sidney Lumet, get familiar with him. He's also directed so many great films. 12 Angry Men, probably his most famous. That's another one of my all-time favorites. He had to be an honorable mention. Alfred Hitchcock, the legend, right? The horror legend. Without him, there would be no John Carpenter. Without him, there would be no Wes Craven. Without him, there would be no Jordan Peele. You know, so many horror directors that we love. Their work is on the shoulders of Alfred Hitchcock and what he did. Just a brilliant filmmaker. Did so many great films, so he had to be an honorable mention. And then lastly, Michael Mann. I love Michael Mann. Heat, again, one of my all-time faves. But everything that Michael Mann has done has just been... He doesn't have a bad film, in my opinion. I've seen all his movies. He doesn't have a bad film. He's just a consistently great filmmaker and puts out great work. So love Michael Mann as well. It just didn't quite make the cut here. So honorable mentions out of the way. Let's get into my list of my top 10 favorite directors of all time. Here we go. So coming in at number 10, we have Robert Zemeckis. A guy who I don't think gets enough love by people out there. This is a guy that has put out banger after banger. So many great films, so many iconic films, from the Back to the Future films to Forrest Gump to Castaway. I mean, the guy has done so many awesome, great movies that have moved me in profound ways. He's told great stories with his direction, and he really, I think, puts a lot of meaning and emotion into his films, and that's something that I always appreciate. They usually always have great characters in them that I love and enjoy, can come back to and want to revisit. And yeah, I couldn't leave him off this list for favorite directors of all time, because there have been so many movies of his that have just moved me subjectively in profound ways. So yeah, Robert Zemeckis, number 10 for me. Coming in at number 9, director who I've done a ranking video of his filmography fairly recently, and that's Stanley Kubrick. I talked a little bit about Kubrick when I did filmography ranking of him, so I won't spend too much time on him, but love Stanley Kubrick. 2001 Space Odyssey, The Shining. Yeah, I mean, just so Full Metal Jacket, Spartacus. I mean, so many great films. Paths to Glory. So many great films in his filmography. A director who always did something different, never made the same film twice, never wanted to make the same film twice. He always sought to open that creative envelope, do something new. Always was very particular, very precise about every directing decision that he made in his films. And yeah, just a great filmmaker. Love his work. He's number 9 for me. Coming in at number 8, we have the Coen brothers. A pair of directors, you know, who have they're pretty well known in Hollywood. I don't think I have to spend too much time on them, really. Everyone knows the Coen brothers, loves the Coen brothers. Yeah, for good reason. They're ones that they've put out a lot of films and they've consistently been good. I've also done a filmography ranking of the Coen brothers on my channel. I think there were only a couple of films that I wasn't really a fan of, but most of their films, man, hit really hard, and especially like their top 10 or the top 10 Coen brother movies, in my opinion, are just bangers, man. So they're ones, again, have multiple 5-star films for me. A number of films that are really close to that spot. They tell great stories with a lot of meaning, a lot of layers to them, usually pretty dark in their storytelling, you know. But one thing that I love about their directing is, even though a lot of their stories are pretty dark as far as tone and theme, they typically always leave just enough light, you know, in the film. With the end or with the story, they leave just enough light in there to give you a glimmer of hope. And that's something that I like with their directing style. So I think they are very good with humor, and they write really good humor in films that's not slapstick or overt all the time, but subtle humor or natural humor, which I always think works the best in film. And humor that is true to the characters, but is also fun and enjoyable and very rewatchable. So you look at a number of their films like No Country for Old Men, The Big Lebowski. Yeah, so many films on their list are just, True Grit. So many that they've done that are just, top notch movies and great, brilliant filmmaking by the pair of brothers. So they had to make the cut here. They come in together at number 8. Coming in at number 7, we have Paul Thomas Anderson, another director who I've done a filmography ranking of on my channel. Love PTA. I think he is just has a brilliant mind, tells brilliant stories. And I mean, he talk about moving me, man. A couple of his films, man, just hit so hard. Magnolia is probably, for sure, I would say his most emotionally driven film for me, and a film that just hits so hard on an emotional level. That's also just so brilliantly made, and the editing in that movie is just, I mean, top-notch editing, man. Very few films are as well edited as Magnolia. The acting by everybody in that movie is just superb. And again, the story and the themes and what he's saying in the film is just absolutely brilliant. If you haven't seen Magnolia, remedy that right now. After you watch all 4 of our ranking videos, go check out Magnolia. You won't be disappointed. But also, There Will Be Blood, another movie that is just an all-timer for me. Love There Will Be Blood, one of the best acting performances of all time by Daniel Day-Lewis. Paul Dano is great in the movie as well. Another deep, layered movie. I talked a little bit about that on my channel when I ranked Paul Thomas Anderson films. I talked about how I think that film gets misinterpreted. I'll say this. The meaning that Paul Thomas Anderson may have meant in telling the story is what people probably interpret the film to be. I personally have a very different interpretation of the film that I think is there if you want to see it through that lens. And if you're a Christian or if you have a Christian worldview, I think it lends itself to the interpretation that I kind of get out of it. And I talked about that on the ranking video. But yeah, love Paul Thomas Anderson. So many of his films are all-timers. But he would come in at number 7 for me. Coming in at number 6, we have Ridley Scott, another director that I've done a full ranking of on my channel. The guy, when he is on point, very, very hard to top Ridley Scott when he is on top form. Like his best films, I mean, are like some of the best films ever made. Gladiator, Alien, Blade Runner. The guy is just, he never stops working either. I think he's like in his 80s now. The guy is still working like multiple films. He always has multiple films, in the chamber that he's working on. And that's something I thoroughly respect with Ridley Scott, and appreciate the fact that he's always working. He's always trying to put out more films, trying to tell a good story. He's so good at world building and period pieces. I don't think anyone can make a period piece quite like Ridley Scott can. I mean, you look at Gladiator, the setting there. You look at Napoleon and the world building there. You look at, just so many, a couple of them escape, the names escape me right now, but yeah, the guy's a can of corn, man. He's the best. He at world building, and he also uses really good editing, his visuals. I mean, I love the way that he can just immerse you into a world or into a setting with his films, and keep a meaning in the story that moves you. And that's something that is important to me, and Ridley Scott does that consistently. So, Ridley Scott, love the guy. He had to be on this list for me. Moving into my top 5 now. Number 5, I'm going with John Carpenter. Yes. If you know me, if you've been kicking it with me for a while, I'm a big horror fan. Horror is my favorite genre of film. And John Carpenter has made a number of horror films that are some of my favorite horror movies of all time. I mean, Christine, The Fog, The Thing, and obviously The GOAT, Halloween, and John Carpenter gave me my favorite movie character of all time with Michael Myers, my boy, ride or die to the end, homie. So look, Carpenter had to be on this list for me. Again, this isn't best directors of all time. I'm not saying that John Carpenter is a better director than Ridley Scott. I'm simply saying favorite. He is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time because the films that he has made have been so thoroughly rewatchable or entertaining to me, that I find myself coming back to so many of his films. And again, as a horror fan, his contribution to horror is just unprecedented, can't be denied. And Carpenter, for me, one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. So he's in that top 5, baby. I can't make a top 5 without putting my boy Carpenter in there. So coming in at number 4, we have Zack Snyder, son. Another guy. This might be a hot take. I don't know, because apparently so many people out there love to troll Zack Snyder, love to hate on Zack Snyder, love to hate on his films. I don't get it. I just don't get the hate. I think it is so undeserved. I think I've heard so many people just say he's only style, no substance, which I just think is a crock of BS, if I'm being perfectly honest. A lot of his films have very deep emotion in them for me personally, and I get so much out of a number of his films. I love his cinematography, his visuals, especially anything dealing with comic books. I think he can just tell a comic book character story on film better than anybody. And I love Snyder. I love his work. I love what he's given to cinema. And yeah, it's a shame that he has been just treated with the maliceness that he's been treated with by Hollywood and by so many other people out there. I'll never understand it, but yeah, Zack Snyder, I love the guy thoroughly. So many of his movies are, all-timers for me, but yeah, Snyder, number 4, on my list. Coming in at number 3, we have Christopher Nolan. A guy that, look, man, every time Nolan puts out a film, it hits at the box office. It hits with critics, with movie fans. I think he's probably the best and biggest filmmaker of the 21st century. I mean, everything that he has done has hit with so many people. A guy that, again, doesn't really have a bad film on his filmography. And, just always doing something creative, always doing something new, always raising the bar for himself and for other directors out there. The guy is just he's got a brilliant mind. The way that he tells stories, uses score, uses sound, uses practical effects, shoots in camera. His next film is being shot entirely in IMAX. I mean, the guy is he's always doing innovative things. He gave us the Dark Knight trilogy. Obviously, as a Batman fan, that means something to me. But yeah, the reason he's not one or two for me personally is I feel like outside of the Batman movies, the 3 Batman movies that he's done, with the exception of Tenet, which I love, there hasn't really been, and I know I'm going to get in trouble from Bryan on this. Bryan, I love you. I apologize. Don't hate me. But outside of the Batman movies and Tenet, I don't know that there's been any film of his that has moved me emotionally on a deep enough level that maintains its rewatchability for me. So you have certain movies like obviously Interstellar that has a very deep emotional effect there. But the emotional effect that Interstellar has on me is not an emotion, not an emotional effect that I want to feel often. I don't find myself going back to Interstellar very often because I don't like feeling the way Interstellar makes me feel. So that's what I mean when I say outside of the Dark Knight movies and Tenet, he doesn't really have any film that has a deep emotional level and maintains the rewatchability like the 2 guys above him do. So, love Nolan. He's top 3 for me. One of my favorites of all time. But that's the one thing that kind of keeps him from being that 1 or 2 spot for me. Moving into my number 2, we have Quentin Tarantino. Love Tarantino. I've been a big Tarantino fan for a number of years. I love all his films, with the exception of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is another conversation for another time. Outside of that, I like all his movies. I really like all of his movies. So he's another one that has multiple 5-star films for me, and movies that I love. And what I also love is that he also tackles different genres. He does different films, but he always stays true to Tarantino. He always keeps that the kind of presence in his film that if you just watch 5 minutes of any Tarantino movie without being told that it's a Tarantino movie, you can tell you're watching a Tarantino movie. His ability to write dialogue, his ability to create these characters and tell stories that have an emotional impact on me while still maintaining that rewatchability is just he's a master craftsman. He's a master at his craft. I had so many movies of his that I love and plan on reviewing eventually, from Pulp Fiction to Reservoir Dogs to Inglourious Bastards, The Hateful Eight. I mean, just so many I love. So yeah, love Tarantino. One of my favorites of all time. He's number 2 for me. But coming in at number 1, I'm going with Steven Spielberg. Yes, look, the guy is looks, there are so many things that make Spielberg a great director. And there are so many reasons I could get into to explain why he's my favorite director of all time. If I did that, we would be here for the next 3 hours, so I won't get into everything. But he has a way the way that he approaches stories is he always has so much genuineness in his films and is always stays so authentic to the story that I love that about his films. You know, not all his films are 5-star masterpieces, but he has set the precedent for so many filmmakers. He has inspired so many filmmakers because of his approach to storytelling and the way that he tells stories. So many of his films have moved me in some of the most profound ways. Jaws. I still won't go in the water because of Jaws. Anytime someone's like, hey, you want to go on, you want to go on the boat? You want to go shark diving with me? I'm like, no, dude, I've seen Jaws. I know what happens when you get in the water. All right. You have Schindler's List, which, I mean, dude, that's a film that I've seen a few times, but it hits so deep for me. The way that Spielberg tells that story, man, it gets you in the feels. Saving Private Ryan, my favorite war film of all time, one of my favorite movies, period, of all time. There's two scenes in Saving Private Ryan. Every single time I watch the movie, I've seen the movie a dozen times probably by now. Every single time I see it, there are two scenes that put me in tears, that get me choked up because of just the emotional effect that the scenes have on me and the way that Spielberg tells the story. He always is so genuine to the story that's being told. He doesn't get caught up and trying to do the craziest, coolest things with the camera and move the camera this way and move the camera that way. Like, that's one of my criticisms with a lot of modern directors, modern filmmakers. I feel like they try to do so much with the camera to impress the viewer that the story gets lost. Because at the expense of the story, it's at the expense of the story because I'm too distracted by the camera and the cinematography and what's going on or with the sound or whatever that I'm no longer invested in the story. I'm no longer invested with the characters. Spielberg has always maintained a genuineness to the story and the emotional effect that the story needs to have. That I love that about his filmmaking, and he's put in such a body of work from the 70s to today. I mean, 5 decades worth of filmmaking, and continues to inspire new directors, continues to build on his legacy of one of the greatest directors of all time. But yeah, even personally on a subjective level, Spielberg is my guy. So yeah, there you go, guys. That is my list, my top 10 favorite directors of all time. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, go check out the other 3 videos from Jack, from Bryan, and from Jason. And yeah, and enjoy their list. Watch how not to make a top 10 directors list from them. And but yeah, and then stay tuned for part 2 and part 3 that will be coming in August and in September, right? This is July. So yeah, the next one will be top 10 actors. That will be in August, and then top 10 actresses will be in September. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, you freaks, kick it and rock on.